Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to uncover a powerful, pretty much overlooked secret about the sun that could totally change how you think about your health.
You know, for decades, whenever we talk about the sun and health, it's always about one thing, right? Vitamin D. But it turns out that is just a tiny, tiny piece of a much bigger and way more interesting story.
In fact, some really groundbreaking discoveries are showing that certain wavelengths of sunlight can actually pass right through your skin, through your clothes, and your tissues, getting deep inside to interact with literally every single cell in your body.
So what's really happening when you step outside? Let's break down what we're actually getting from the sun and why it matters so much.
It's kind of funny. We spend all this time talking about ultraviolet light, that little slice of the pie that's less than 10%, because that's what makes vitamin D. But just look at this chart. Over half the photons coming from the sun are actually in the invisible infrared spectrum.
And here is the key difference. High-energy UV light, it pretty much just acts on the surface of your skin. But lower-energy infrared light, well, it's more like the bass you feel from a car stereo. It goes right through things, reaching deep, deep inside of us.
Okay, so this invisible light gets inside us. But how do we know it's actually doing anything important once it's there? Well, the proof comes from a really fascinating experiment.
So check this out. A team at University College London did this brilliant study. They knew our color vision gets worse as we age because the mitochondria, the little batteries in our retina cells, get weaker. So they shined infrared light only on people's bodies while their heads were totally shielded. No light hit their eyes at all. The result was stunning. Their color vision improved. The conclusion is just mind-blowing. You can remotely recharge the batteries in your cells all over your body.
So the really crucial point here is that infrared light can recharge our mitochondria from a distance. But why is that such a game changer for our health?
You probably remember from biology class, right? Mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cells. They're the tiny batteries running everything. Well, their decline is at the very center of the aging process and nearly every chronic disease you can name. But just like any engine, when they're working hard, they also create a lot of damaging exhaust.
This analogy just shows it perfectly. Healthy mitochondria are like a cool, efficient car engine. But in chronic disease, that engine starts to run way too hot. It creates what's called oxidative stress, which is basically a kind of internal heat damage that breaks the whole engine down from the inside.
And this brings us to a massive problem, because our modern lives have created this huge invisible deficiency that most of us don't even know exists.
The fact is, we've become an indoor species. I mean, a study from way back in 1992, this is before the internet and smartphones really took over, found we were already spending 93% of our time indoors. Can you imagine what that number is today?
And somehow, we've actually made it worse. We've created a perfect storm. We swapped out our old incandescent bulbs, which actually produced a lot of infrared light like the sun, for super efficient LEDs that produce almost none. Then we installed these fancy energy-efficient windows that are literally designed to block infrared light. We have accidentally engineered environments that starve our cells.
This quote just says it all. Hundreds of years ago, sailors got scurvy from a lack of vitamin C. Well, today, it seems many of us are suffering from a widespread deficiency of light.
So what's the antidote to this modern-day scurvy? The good news is, it's actually remarkably simple, and it's completely free.
The prescription is just this: get outside. You don't need to spend hours sunbathing. The research shows you can see a significant difference with just 15 minutes of sun exposure a day. That's it.
And you don't even need a clear, sunny day. Infrared light punches right through clouds. I mean, think about it. What melts the snow on a chilly but bright winter day? It's not the air temperature, it's the sun's infrared radiation. If it's powerful enough to melt snow, you can be sure it's powerful enough to work inside your body.
And the large-scale data on this is just staggering. Multiple studies during the pandemic looked at COVID-19 mortality. And in the US, England and Italy, three totally different places and cultures, the result was exactly the same. More sun exposure consistently correlated with lower mortality.
But this fact, this is the real shocker. It comes from a huge 20-year study in Sweden that followed 30,000 women. They found that completely avoiding the sun was as dangerous to your overall mortality as being a smoker. Let that sink in. Avoiding the sun was as bad for you as smoking.
But you know, if all the big data isn't enough,
Maybe the most powerful evidence comes from a single incredible story.
There was a 15-year-old boy in the hospital with a fungal infection so severe that doctors had to remove one of his lungs. They'd tried everything, and finally they told him he had about 2 days to live. His only request? After being trapped inside for 6 weeks, he just wanted to go outside one last time.
So the hospital staff made it happen. They wheeled him out into the sun for hours each day. And then, miraculously, his fevers broke. His white blood cell count improved. The infection that these powerful drugs couldn't even touch just started to clear up. The doctors were speechless. The only thing that had changed was sunlight.
You see, this story isn't just about feeling good in the sun. It's about giving your body one of its most ancient and essential tools for health. It's about arming yourself for the fight against chronic disease, just by stepping out your front door.
The science is clear. The prescription is simple, and it's free. So the only real question left is, what could 15 minutes of sunlight a day change for you?